Hello everyone, I'm Jason Sykes, aka the Tech Rancher. Today we're going to be teaching you how to install MicroPython extensions into Visual Studio Code. If you don't have Visual Studio Code, that's okay. We're going to download that along with how to download extensions. Once we get the extensions downloaded, we're going to connect our Raspberry Pi Pico and we're going to flash the LED on the board to let us know that we got it connected. Alright, let's get started. What we're going to need to do first is we're going to need to open up our browser, and we're going to go ahead and go to the Visual Studio. It's pre-populated right there, Visual Studio Code, and we're going to go ahead and go to the website. This should automatically pre-detect your operating system. If it doesn't, up here at the top right is a download button. Click on the download button. This will bring you to where you can choose your operating system. I'm using Ubuntu, so there's my Debian. It already detected it prior, but there it is. I'm not going to walk you through how to download it because it's just pretty simple. You just click on it, and then once it downloads, you're going to go ahead and install it. And then I'm going to go ahead and go over here. Once you get it installed, it will usually either be on your desktop or your download folder. If you're using Ubuntu or some kind of Debian Linux, it's going to either be down here in the show applications, down the lower left or the upper right, depending on which version of flavor of Linux you're using. But since I already have mine and I've stored it on my favorite, I'm going to go ahead and click on it. Well, I said that. Here we go. And it takes me to the welcome page. Lets me know I got it installed. Visual Studio Code, editing involved. Alright, if you never opened it before, right over here on the right hand side is going to have a lot of information about what Visual Studio Code can do, what languages it can work with, and pretty much different extensions you can use. I usually don't leave this welcome page on, so if you wanted to get rid of it too, you can go down here to this box and click on that check mark. And let's close this out and let's start with our extensions. Down over here to the left, looks like a bunch of boxes. It says extensions when you hover over it. You're going to click on that, and that's going to give us another little window that pops beside it. We're going to type in Python. We're going to look for the Python that's made by Microsoft. If you click on that, it's going to say Python extensions for Visual Studio Code. If you've never installed it before, you're going to find a little tab right here that's going to say install. I already have mine installed. While it's installing, we're going to go ahead and come over to this box and we're going to look into MicroPico, and it's by Paul Oppler. If you click on that, it used to be called Pico W, aka Pico W, but now it's called MicroPico. If you haven't installed it either, you can go ahead and click on that tab that will be right here. It would say install. I know I'm going pretty fast, so don't worry about hitting pause and slowing down and catching up and then hit play again. Don't want this to be too long, so I'm going to go pretty fast here. Once that's downloaded, we're going to have to go down here and we're going to have to open up a terminal, and we're going to have to pip install PySerial. To open up a terminal in Visual Studio Code is you hit Ctrl+T, which is the button or the key below escape on most keyboards. Click that, hit that together, and that will open up a terminal. Once the terminal is open, we're going to type in pip 3. I'm kind of thirsty. Maybe that's what my brain's thinking. Pip 3 is in my bin for Python 3. So pip 3 install. And we're going to do a PySerial. And I already have the requirements are already specified. If it's not, it would go ahead and download for you. And mine's done. Let's close out this window here. And we're going to go over to this window. We're going to go into start opening up our file. You go over to this little spot. It looks like two pages laying on top of each other. You click on that, and that's going to open up an extension explorer. Well, I clicked on it, but it's not giving me what I want. Let me correct that here real quick. I'm trying to do it to where it's just the same as you, because it was going to actually take me to my folder I already have, but I want to start fresh just like you. So if I go here and click on this Explorer, it's going to say open a folder. And so if we click on this open folder, we can specify where we want to save our projects, is what it's saying. To save this project we're getting ready to do. And I already have a folder ready, as you already saw, so I'm going to go ahead and navigate back to that. And I'm going to hit open once I got to that. This will open up Visual Studio back out with the ability to be able to add in our new folder. I mean, a new file. I mean, within our new folder, we're going to open up we're going to be able to install our new file. Once that pulled back up, right back up here next to extensions it looks like a piece of paper with a plus. Click on this, and that will give us a window that we can put input. We're going to type in main.py and hit enter. Now we're at a point where we're ready to hook up our Raspberry Pi Pico to our computer. Go ahead and plug it into the USB port, and then once you get that plugged in, we need this. Don't worry about that. That's another program I usually use, another extension, and it says that it's not detecting it. Yours probably won't do that unless you actually have that set up. Now, since we got our Raspberry Pi Pico connected to the computer, we're going to have to hit Control-Shift-P. Control-Shift on the left-hand side, and then hit P all at the same time. This is going to give a command window to come down, drop-down window. If yours is brand new, it won't have these currently used options. So it is right here in this little data entry. We're going to type in macro. Capitalized. Pico, capitalized Pico, and with the colon, not semicolon, colon. And we're going to look for config project. If you go down through here, you'd end up finding it again. But mine's right up here. You're going to go ahead and click on it. And that's going to set up this file to communicate with our Pico W. Once we're done with that and it has done its job, it's going to say project configuration complete. Now we're ready to code. We're going to tell the board hi, or we're going to tell the board to turn on the LED to say hi to us. So right up here, we're going to add in some code. We're going to have to add in a library. We're going to actually add in two, but we're going to say from machine import pin, capital PIN, and then from time import sleep. And since MicroPython is just like Python, you can add in comments the same way. So I'm going to add in a comment here saying that we're going to put in a variable, and then if I can spell variables, and then we're going to specify our variables. I'm going to name mine BOARDLED, and I'm going to say that is a string labeled LED. I'm going to explain this a little bit later on. Let's just follow along here real quick. In our next one, we're going to do DT equals 1. So with Python, it's dynamic. You don't have to specify like you do with C++. You don't have to specify that we're getting ready to put the characters in to make a string. We don't have to specify that we're going to do an int to put in a number or a float or a double. One nice thing about Python is why it usually has such a low learning curve compared to C++. Let's go down here, and we're going to start our object. So I'm going to comment this again. Object, create, and right down below this, I'm going to create my object, and I'm going to call it LED equals pin, and I'm going to open parentheses, and I'm going to put in our variable that we did up here, BOARDLED, comma, and you can do a space. You don't have to do a space, but then we're going to type in pin again, dot, and we're going to type in the class pin, and we're going to type in the object that goes with that pin, which is out, capitalized. And then what we did is we just created an object and we called it LED, and then inside the object we're using the class pin, and we're saying the variable which has the string LED into that, and then we're calling in once again the class pin with the function of out. This will explain a little bit more down here. This is continue on, and now I'm going to do a print function. I want to do print hello world, I'm flashing my LED at you. Period, and get out of this. And we're going to do a try and except. I'll explain as we go. We're going to do a try and colon, and then step down, and we're going to do while true. This is, we're making a loop. We're going to do a colon and step down out of that, and then we're going to say LED dot toggle, and that's a function. And then right below that, we're going to what toggle does is it turns the light on, but we want to be able to turn it on and off. So we're going to put a delay in it because this is a loop, because it's going to continue to be always true. So while true, toggle, delay, toggle, delay. So now we're going to put in sleep, and we're going to put inside the argument, we're going to put in our DT, because we're going to say 1 second. I like to do arguments because I can always change them, and so I have to go all the way down to the code and look for everywhere I put in that I want to change. Now let's step out of this while, and then put in our except keyboard interrupt. You can hit, and when it starts to pre-populate, you can go ahead and hit tab and it will complete it. That's one thing I do like about that, and compared to some other IEDs that are pretty common for the Raspberry Pi Pico, they don't have a lot of the fancy bells and whistles that Visual Studio Code does. Okay, here on this except keyboard interrupt, what we're saying is that when we hit stop sending the data to the Raspberry Pi or Pico, we want to go ahead and turn off. So we're going to say LED.value, and we're going to give it the value 0. We're going to say we're not going to send any voltage to the LED anymore. We want it to be off. And let's look over everything. We have a try, while true, turn on the LED, then pause for 1 second. Since we're in the loop, because we haven't did any keyboard interrupt, it's going to toggle again, which now will shut it off and wait 1 second. Continue to go through the loop until we tell it to stop. Well, let's just make it work. I'm going to turn on the camera over here so you can see. There you go. And we're going to, as you can see my mouse coming down here, down to the bottom, there is, looks like a play icon, and it says run. And the helper information, it says run current file. If we click on this, you can see that the LED is flashing now on our board. And our display was supposed to say something too, but it's not, so let me stop that. What I did is I hit stop down here. It had a little square box, and it said stop, so I clicked on it because my output did not display. I wanted to show my display. I wanted to show my output where we did print, and for some reason it didn't do it, so I stopped and restarted again. I'm going to clear this so it's all fresh, and then I'm going to hit play again, and it says hello world, I'm flashing my LED at you. And as we saw from the camera over here, that the LED on the board is flashing. And we're now from Visual Studio Code talking to the Raspberry Pi Pico W. Let's stop. As you can see down here, it says stop. We're going to click on that, and if you look on the board, the LED had stopped because we did a keyboard interrupt. Wow, there you go. We have told the Visual Code Studio, we had installed, we actually installed two. If this is your first time downloading Visual Studio Code, we have actually installed Python, the extension, and an extension for MicroPico extension. Then we did a pip 3 and installed my mind just went blank. We did pip install PySerial, and then we was able to start up our first file. And then once we started up our first file, we did ctrl+alt+P, and we went to MicroPico configuration. See, I'm going to walk through this because you'll need to do that each and every time you do a new file. Each time you do a new file and you want to send it to your Pico, you do ctrl+shift+P, and then MicroPico configure project, and that will configure that project for the information that you're putting, the data that you're putting in, the code that you're putting in into that project to connect and talk to the Pico W. Once that's done, you put in your code and you can hit play, and that will send it, and then you hit stop and that will stop it, sending it and stopping it. That's pretty much it. I'm going to do some more videos on how to use MicroPython, how the language or the syntax is actually coded, and some of it might be a little slightly different to Python compared to MicroPython, just because MicroPython is geared for ICs, for integrated circuitry, for MCIs. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below, and I'll do my best to return them. Until next time, everyone, be safe out there.